Welcome back to my channel. My name is Casey and today we're going to be going over my February TBR. So today's TBR is going to be set for February. Now I was able to get through the books that I wanted to get through in January, which was wonderful. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to, and I actually added on one or two others, which I was really happy about. So that being said, we do have a series that we're going to be finishing. And I want to focus as much as I can on books/series that I have already listed as currently reading in my Goodreads. So I have started them at some point. I may have to restart some of them, but I want to try to get that number down. I started it this year, 15 books on my currently reading Goodreads shelf, which is a lot. Those are the ones that I'm currently reading that I have started the most recently. I would like to get through some of those and finish those before starting any new series or any new books overall. So we did really good in January. I got a few of those off that list. I did start another series, but it's a young middle grade series, so I'm not too worried about adding that one in, and that one is going to be finished in February. And that one we're going to start off with is The Shadow Throne by Jennifer Nielsen. And I know that if I had read this when I was a young middle schooler, I would have absolutely adored this book. So I'm trying to read into it with a little bit of a younger mindset, a little bit of a younger expectation. But it is a really fun story, especially for YA, or not even YA. You could read it if it's more YA, but it's really a middle grade series. But it's a great middle grade fantasy series. It's got adventure, it has friendships, it has betrayal, it has a little bit of blossoming love, but not too much to be overbearing for those who just don't want to have any of that in their middle grade stories. But I absolutely would recommend this for anybody who has young kids who's just kind of starting to get into fantasy. It's not really heavy on the fantasy. It is more just in a sort of medieval setting. But it follows, originally the first one follows three young boys, originally four boys, who are taken from their respective orphanages by this man. This man seems to have some sort of end goal, but they're not sure why and what, and he is very, very limited on the information that he's giving them. So I don't want to go too much into this, with being this is the third one in the series. This will finish the original trilogy. I'm probably not going to finish or continue on with the remaining books. It does continue into book 4, 5, and I think book 6. But I don't think I'm going to continue on myself. It's just a little too young for me, but I did want to finish the series, the first 3, and kind of at least get an idea where that ended. I don't like leaving a lot of series unfinished, especially if I didn't mind it. I mean, but it's a middle grade, and I'd rather be spending my time reading or listening to other things. But I do have this on Hoopla, so I'll be listening to it when I can at work, and it's a very, very quick listen. Editing Casey here. Hi. For some reason, my audio decided to cut out, so I do apologize for the horrible sound that is going to be present throughout the rest of this video. I will try to make sure that this does not happen again in the future. Next, we have a book that I actually got on ebook. So that book is going to be The Bird King, and this is a standalone novel. It is by G. Willow Wilson. I had no idea what this was, had never heard of it before it came onto my email, and it sounded interesting. It is, I believe, a LGBTQ plus representation book in a way with one of the main, I would say a main character, with one of the main characters, but I'm not really quite there yet, but I think so. And I have started this one. So I'm right there. How many pages is that? 70. I'm on page 71, chapter 5. And I'm really, really enjoying what I've been reading so far. But again, mood reader, I got distracted. And I'm not good at reading books on my e-readers. I don't know why. It is a frustrating aspect of my personality that I wish I could change, and I'm trying to change. But I really, really struggle to read books on my e-readers. I really am enjoying this book so far, and I'm excited to have it in physical copy. So now I'll be more motivated to read it because that's how my brain works, and I hate it. But that's just the way it is. So that's what we have to run with. So I'm really excited for this, and this is probably going to be one of the first ones in February that I pick up because A, I've already started it, and B, I'm really enjoying it. The writing style so far is wonderful. The characters are just super, I mean, we haven't really gotten very far and not really doing very much, but for some reason the characters are just super captivating, which makes it easy to read because I enjoy every one of them. But I'm really excited to get to this one. And next is a book that I've also already started. All of these I've already started, except for the first one we already talked about and the last one that we'll talk about. But I've already started all of these. This one, however, I did not yet put on my Goodreads to be read shelf. And that is going to be Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed. I've heard a lot of good things about this one. I am not a big fantasy horror reader. So this will be new territory for me. It is not typically horror, just in general, is not typically what I read. Grimdark even isn't typically what I read. I don't mind it, and I do have some Grimdark books and series and whatnot that I have either consumed or yet to consume. But it's just not what I gravitate to. I don't typically like the really dark and gritty and just the depressing stuff. But I don't hate it. So I'm really looking forward to this standalone horror. That's 2 standalones in a row, actually. Sweet. So we're getting through some of our goals for standalones. And I've heard some conflicting reviews, mostly from people who didn't realize that this was horror. So I think going in with that expectation and knowing that this is horror fantasy, that I won't be blindsided by some of those reviewers were, and then I will be able to have the right expectations for this book. I know a little bit about it. I've watched a couple reviews, spoiler-free reviews, but I'm excited for another standalone. I am excited to jump into a new sort of side genre with the horror aspect, so I'm really looking forward to this one. And the final physical book, which may also go into audio, because I do have the audiobook in my Audible account from way back when it was first released. And this is a reread. Now, I do count my rereads as read books for the month. I know some people don't count their rereads for books that they've read within the year. I don't really understand that, but to each their own, but I do. So this is going to be my 3rd or 4th reread of The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. James Islington has a new book coming out, I believe, this year. I think. I'll have to double check. This is his debut series, and it was just released in the Broken Binding subscription. So I'm really excited to have those copies. This is my floppy American copy. I was not able to get a hard copy of this first book because, of course, printing being what it is, I missed out on the hard copy. This is a story that I absolutely love. If you like Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time and kind of that quest, fantasy quest, fellowship sort of story, I think you'll like this one. I think it does have a pretty unique magic system. It deals with time travel. It deals with the gift, which is where people who are born with magic, some aren't, some are. There's a war, there's these timeless beings that are starting to come back, and you're trying to figure out why they're coming back now, what's different now, and then you've got a boundary in the north that's starting to break apart that they need to try and fix. And it's just a really, really exciting adventure with some really great characters that I think really speaks to James Islington's talent as a writer, being that this is his debut. Now, all 3 of them are pretty chunky, so they do take a little while, but again, I have this one in audiobook. I have started this one as well. I'm on page 81, so you know, we're not reading the entire books this month, right? But it really doesn't take too long to get through the audiobook once I'm able to sit down and listen to it. So if I'm not able to get through the print along with the few print books that I have here, I can always just try and listen to it on audio and rush through it that way. The next book that I'm hoping to maybe get to, but I'm not going to push myself to do so because, like I said in January, I don't want to push myself too hard in my expectations on what I get done throughout the month. I'm happy with 1 book a week, but if I'm able to get through this one, it is an ebook, so that one might be a little bit of a struggle, as per said before. But that is going to be Half a Soul. I'm not sure who the author is. I'm so sorry. But I've heard quite a bit about this book, and I've seen a lot of good things, a lot of good reviews about it, that it also technically I think could be read as a single standalone, even though it is a part of a series, and those are kind of my favorite books to read. When, yeah, if I like it, I can continue on with more, but I don't have to. It's pretty self-contained. But quote, don't quote me, that could be wrong, so let me know in the comments if you would agree with that or not, because I'd be interested to see different opinions on whether you think that it really needs to be read within the rest of the series, or if it can just stand on its own and hold on its own. But I'm excited for that one. It seems cute. It kind of feels, from what I've kind of gathered from people, a little whimsical. And I just finished Tress of the Emerald Sea in January, and I'm kind of in the mood for a little more whimsy, because that was definitely whimsy. So if I get to it, great, but if not, I'm not going to feel bad about it, and I'll just move it to the next month's TBR if I'm still in the mood to read that. And then last but not least, we have our TBR pick, and this is not a very exciting jar. I promise there's a lot more, a lot of books in here. It just doesn't look like it, but this is an idea that I pulled from Emily Fox, where she wrote down on a piece of paper, color-coded per genre, but she reads a lot more genre variety than I do. And she wrote all of the books that are on her shelf that she has yet to read. And I thought, what a great way to try and finally get through a lot of this backlist on my shelves. So what I'm going to do is, because I am a mood reader and I really can't just choose one book and my brain go, okay, yeah, that's what we'll read. I'm going to choose 3 out of here. And then of those 3, I'm going to choose just one, and that one is going to go on my TBR. So whichever of those 3 that I'm most in the mood to read, that's going to be the one I'm going with. But I need choice. My brain needs choice. So that's going to be the last book that we read this month. And this is the book that I absolutely must get through. So more than likely, whatever book it is, I'm going to read or start that one first and make sure I really focus on this one, and then get the rest of them in sporadically and intermittently to make sure that I absolutely get through some of these backlisted books, because that is a huge goal for me this year, is to try and make that happen. So we're going to go and pull our 3 choices. All right, choice number 1 is Spirit Gate. That's probably backwards for you guys. Darn. Spirit Gate by Kate Elliott. This is actually a library find, one of our library sales from earlier this year. So I have no clue what this is about, but it was like 50 cents or something like that. It says book 1 of Crossroads, the best-selling author of Crown of Stars. I do have a few other Kate Elliott books, I believe. We have a map, because this is not one that I'm familiar with. But that is our first choice. Second choice. By the Light of the Moon, in case this isn't backwards for you. Shoot. Which book is that? Oh no. Oh no. Alright, so this is my only Dean Koontz book. And I've never read a Dean Koontz, and I think there's a reason for that. Not to say that his work is bad or anything. It's just not what I typically read. So this is going to be an interesting read. I've been wanting to read this, but I've been really hesitant because it's Dean Koontz and it's so far out of my normal wheelhouse, which might be a good reason to pick it up. So we'll see what the third decision is, or the third choice is. The Mage Hound. That one. This one is by Elaine Cunningham, older book. Also a library find. Actually still has the library wrapping on here. I usually take that off. But it's relatively smaller at what looks like just about 300 pages. It is part of the Forgotten Realms. I have not read a single book in the Forgotten Realms. I've owned a couple throughout my life, but I pretty much have, I think, unhauled every single one of them that I've gotten to used bookstores or back to used bookstores, because I get them from used bookstores and then decide, okay, I'm not really going to read this, and then I give them back to used bookstores. But it is one that I've wanted to pick up for a while, but it's book 1, and I don't know that I want to start another series, and 2 of these are book 1. So let's go over. We have The Spirit Gate by Kate Elliott, The Mage Hound by Elaine Cunningham, and By the Light of the Moon by Dean Koontz. So these are my 3 choices. There's not any one in here that's really standing out to me like, holy cow, I've been wanting to read that for a really, really long time. So I think I'm gonna choose Dean Koontz. I think I'm gonna go with this one, mainly because it is a standalone and I would like to get through as many standalones as I can. And I've already got 2 in my TBR, so that's less pressure on me to start a new series and keep it going, whereas this, it's just one and done. So I think I'm gonna go with this one. It'll be a little bit of a break, I think, in my fantasy reading that I'm gonna be doing as well. This will be more, I think, urban. I'm more of an urban fantasy type story, so I'm kind of excited about that. So that's what we're gonna go with. We're gonna go with Dean Koontz. So that's what we have for our February TBR. Let me know if you read any of these, what you think. Are you a fan, hugely for or against any or all of these? I would love to discuss in the comments to kind of get some idea of other thoughts on some of these books. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend this time with me. Again, you'll have to excuse my lisp. I've been noticing it throughout the whole video, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, we're almost done. We're almost done. Just a few more weeks, and then we'll be looking nice and shiny. Again, thank you so much. Like and subscribe if you want to. You know how it goes, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! And I am just kind of excited to branch out. What happened there? Oh, what was that? Huh? Oh, you want to snuggle and we can't snuggle right now. New subgenre? Genre. Not all of us are in the bad bitch genre.